जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृष्णभानुसुते देवे प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we were discussing the third chapter of the Gita, Karma Yoga, and we completed until verse 29, and we are going to start from verse number 30 today. So we are moving very fast actually in the third chapter as compared to how we did for the second chapter. It took us almost about 70-75 days to complete the second chapter, but so the third chapter I believe we only have 43 if I'm not wrong, and we are already on the 30th verse, so few more verses to go, on 13 more verses actually. So I'll share my screen. Let me know when you're able to see it. Can you see my screen?
Coming through, yeah.
Is it visible now?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Let's recite the verse. You can repeat after me. Mai sarvani karmani.
Mahi sarvani karmani.
Hare Krishna, am I audible?
No, you're going in and out, Ganpati Govind.
Oh, I'm sorry. One second.
Yeah, sometimes we're just seeing your lips moving.
Maybe let me stop my camera. Maybe that will improve.
We can hear, but little bit he's going in and out, Mataji. Little bit.
Oh, okay.
I can.
Okay, is it better now? Am I still going in and out?
No, you're fine now.
Okay, all right. Let's recite this verse. Mai sarvani karmani.
Mahi sarvani karmani.
Sanyasya adhyatma chetasa.
Sannayasyatmatmaschetasa.
Yes, yeah.
Nirashir nirmamo bhutva.
Nirashir nirmamo bhutva.
Yudhyasva vigatajvaraha.
Yudyasva vigatajvaraha.
Mai sarvani karmani.
Mahi sarvani karmani.
Sanyasya adhyatma chetasa.
Sannyasyadyatmachetasa.
Nirashir nirmamo bhutva.
Nirashir nirmamo bhutva.
Yudhyasva vigatajvaraha.
Yudyasva vigatajvaraha.
Mai sarvani karmani.
Mahi sarvani karmani.
Sannasya adhyatma chetasa.
Sannayasyatmatchetasa.
Nirashir nirmamo bhutva.
Nirashir nirmamo bhutva.
Yudhyasva vigatajvaraha.
Yudyasva vigatajvaraha.
Anyone else would like to recite?
Mahi sarvani karmani.
Mai sarvani karmani.
Sannayasyatmatchetasa.
Sanyasya adhyatma chetasa.
Nirashir nirmamo bhutva.
Nirashir nirmamo bhutva.
Yudyasva vigatajvaraha.
Okay, go ahead.
मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि
मयि
मयि
सर्वाणि
सर्वाणि
कर्माणि
कर्माणि
सन्न्यास्याध्यात्मचेतसा
सन्न्यस्याध्यात्मचेतसा
निराशनिर्ममो भूत्वा
निराशीर्निर्ममो भूत्वा
युध्यस्व विगतज्वरः
युद्धस्य
विगतो
विगतज्वरः
ज्वरः
मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि
मयि
मयि
सर्वाणि
सर्वाणि कर्माणि
न संनाश आत्मचेतसा
सन्न्यस्याध्यात्मचेतसा
निराशीर्निर्ममो भूत्वा
निराशीर्निर्ममो भूत्वा
युद्धस्य विगतज्वरः
युध्यस्व
स्वविगतज्वरः
मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि
मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि
सन्न्यासाध्यात्मचेतस
सन्न्यस्याध्यात्मचेतसा
निराशीर्निर्ममो भूत्वा
निराशीर्निर्ममो भूत्वा
युध्यस्व विगतज्वरः
युध्यस्व विगतज्वरः
Okay, let's recite the synonyms. Mai,
मयि
unto me.
unto me
Sarvani,
सर्वाणि
सर्वाणि
all sorts of.
all sorts of
Karmani,
कर्माणि
कर्माणि
activities.
activities
activities
Sannyasya,
सन्न्यस्य
यस्य
giving up completely.
giving up completely
completely
Adhyatma,
अध्यात्म
with full knowledge of the self.
with full knowledge of
knowledge of
the self.
self
Chetasa,
Chetasa
Chetasa
by consciousness.
by
by
consciousness
consciousness
Ashi,
Nirashi
without desire for profit.
without desire
without
for
desire for
profit
profit.
Nirmamah,
Nirmamaha
Mama
without ownership.
without
without
ownership
ownership.
Bhutva,
Bhutva
Bhutva
so being.
so
so
being
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 Yudhyasva,
Yudyasva
fight.
fight
fight
Vigatajvaraha,
Vigatajvaraha
without being lethargic.
without
without
lethargic.
lethargic.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Purport. This verse clearly indicates the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. The Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge. Such an injunction may make things a little difficult. Nevertheless, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna, because that is the constitutional position of the living entity. The living entity cannot be happy independent of the cooperation of the Supreme Lord, because the eternal constitutional position of the living entity is to become subordinate to the desires of the Lord. Arjuna was therefore ordered by Sri Krishna to fight as if the Lord were his military commander. One has to sacrifice everything for the good will of the Supreme Lord, and at the same time discharge prescribed duties without claiming proprietorship. Arjuna did not have to consider the order of the Lord. He had only to execute his order. The Supreme Lord is the soul of all souls. Therefore, one who depends solely and wholly on the Supreme Soul without personal consideration, or in other words, one who is fully Krishna conscious, is called Adhyatma Chetas. Nirashi means that one has to act on the order of the master, but should not expect fruitive results. The cashier may count millions of dollars for his employer, but he does not claim a cent for himself. Similarly, one has to realize that nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. That is one act, since certainly he does not claim proprietorship over anything. This consciousness is called nirmama, or nothing is mine. And if there is any reluctance to execute such a stern order, which is without consideration of so-called kinsmen in the bodily relationship, that reluctance should be thrown off. In this way, one may become vigata jvara, or without feverish mentality or lethargy. Everyone, according to his quality and position, has a particular type of work to discharge, and all such duties may be discharged in Krishna consciousness, as described above. That will lead one to the path of liberation. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine. Translation one more time. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. It's a very clear call for fighting in very clear words. Am I still going in and out, or is it better now?
I think it's better. Maybe.
Okay, let me try
This will
starting my
take me
camera then. Because I did get a message, your internet connection is unstable. So I just wanted to check. So no problems, right? Everyone is able to hear
No,
me?
we haven't seen any problems yet. Yeah.
All right, okay, perfect. Let me see if this works out now. Okay. So we are in a section where Krishna is now kind of telling Arjuna again to fight. In the second chapter, there were many references to fighting. In the third chapter, this is, I believe, the only reference that comes for fighting. But in this verse, for the first time in the third chapter, Krishna is again hinting to Arjuna about Krishna's supreme position. He has not yet revealed his supreme position completely. So he has dropped one hint in the second chapter, and this is another hint that he is dropping to Arjuna, and Arjuna is catching all these hints. In the fourth chapter, Krishna is going to give a very obvious hint, Imam Vivasvate Yogam, I gave this knowledge to the sun god, and there Arjuna will directly ask, how do I understand this? So here, if we see how this is, this chapter started with the question from Arjuna that whether I should, should I fight or should I renounce? That's how the question was. Not exactly in these words, but that is what the meaning of the question was. And Krishna, by different analysis, from all the different angles, he has kind of told Arjuna that for you, it is best to fight, O Arjuna. That's how he has mentioned it. In fact, he has already checkmated Arjuna with his explanations that he had given. So he had compared three different paths so far. Krishna, he has compared Karma Kand, Karma Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. And from all the three angles, he had kind of told Arjuna that you should fight. Even if you, so Arjuna was initially, he wanted to renounce. He said, I don't want to fight. I'll give up my duty and I'll renounce the word. That's how he had mentioned. So Krishna had started comparing the two things, and then he had completely so let me, so in the 3.18 verse, if you remember, so when Krishna is talking about 3.18 and 19, he talks about Jnana Yoga, the Jnanis. He says, Naiva tasya kritanartho na kartanehi kaschana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kaschid artha vyapashrayah. He says that actually a Jnani has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of the duties. But he also said there is no reason for him to not perform such work also. So he had kind of said that although he doesn't have to do any duty, but there is no reason for him to not do the duty also. So if you consider three different levels, even if, so Arjuna is thinking that I am qualified for Jnana Yoga. Krishna is countering that. He's saying that, you are not qualified. He has very clearly said that, you are not qualified for Jnana Yoga, but you are qualified for Karma Yoga. So he said that even if you think that, okay, you are qualified for Karma Yoga, therefore you should not be attached to the results or the fruits. Just do your duty, and your duty is to fight. You are a warrior. Then he said that, okay, if you think that you are, at the Karma Kanda level, then also, as a sacrifice, yagyartharth karmonatra lokoyam karma bandhana, as a sacrifice, you should perform your work. You should perform your duty. And even if you think that you are qualified for Jnana Yoga, so that is where Krishna says that even a Jnani, although he doesn't have to perform any duty, but there is no reason for him to not perform his duty. And there he says, Yadyad acharti shreshthas tatta deveta rajuna. Whatever activities, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow that. And then he gives in his own example. He says that, actually, Arjuna, name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana. For me, actually, there is no work prescribed for me within the 3 words. Trishu lokeshu kinchana. But still I am doing my duty. There is nothing that I want from anything, and there is nothing that I need to obtain from anyone. Still I am doing my duty. And the reason he says that is a very strong reason. He says, Utsediyu me loka na kuryam karma chedaham sankarasya cha kartashyam upahanyam ima prajaha. He says that if I did not perform my duties, then there will be utter chaos in the world, and I would be the cause of creating unwanted population. Sankarasya cha kartasyam. So he gives his own example that although I do not have anything to do, so the idea is that, if we are taking something from others, we have gives Gyanis, they are not taking anything from them because they have already renounced the word, they have renounced desires also. And because they are not taking anything from the word, they are not obliged to give anything in return. So they can renounce the word. That's the idea. But Krishna says that even though they are qualified to renounce, but there is no reason for them to renounce also. And then he gives the examples of kings like Janaka. He says that actually they were very, very advanced souls, and yet they perform their prescribed duties, and that is how they attain perfection. So, and then he says that, whatever actions a great man perform, common men follow that. And then he gives his own example. So he first gives a principle, then he gives an example also. He gives his own example also. And then 3.26, na buddhi vedam janayet agyanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidwan yukta samacharan. He says that actually, do not disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results. A learned person should not induce them to stop work. So how would they be induced? Because if Arjuna is a great man, he's a leader in the society. If he actually renounces word, it will actually disrupt the mind of others, and they might be encouraged to give up their own duties. And then Krishna, even if you think that you are qualified, rather by working in the spirit of devotion, engage them in all sorts of activities. So he says that you actually set a good example for them. Because if you do not set a good example for them, then there will be utter chaos in the world. So that's how this discussion comes up. And then here he says very clearly, Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa. So far, Krishna had been telling that you should not be attached to the results of your fruit. Just give up attachment to the fruits of the results. So what do you do with those fruits of results? Here he is saying that offer those results to me. Mai sarvani karmani. Renounce the fruits in me. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya. Sanyasya means renounce. Adhyatma chetasa. Adhyatma chetasa is the knowledge of the self. You should have the knowledge of the self. And nirashir nirmamo, without any profit and without any false sense of proprietorship. Don't think that anything belongs to you. Yudhyasva vigata jvaraha. You fight and without being lethargic. So Acharya explained that this is, in this verse, actually Krishna gives the complete program to get free from the 3 modes of material nature and rise towards transcendence. So how it is Vigata Jvara. Vigata Jvara is a feverish mentality of lethargy. So giving up free from Vigata Jvara means you get free from the mode of ignorance. Then Nirashir Nirmamo, giving up the sense of profit and false proprietorship. If you give it up, then that is freedom from the mode of passion. Then Adhyatma Chetasa, the knowledge of the self, that is the mode of goodness, and you inculcate the mode of goodness. And Mai Sarvani Karmani, Sanyasya Adhyat, Sanyasya, offering everything to me, all your works unto me, that is rise towards transcendence. So there is a complete program given in this verse. And Prabhupada gives a fantastic purport. He starts very nicely. He says, this verse clearly indicates the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge duties, as if in military discipline. So this has to be followed in military discipline. Such an injunction may make things a little difficult. Nevertheless, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna, because that is the constitutional position of the living entity. So the duties should not be given up, but the duties should be performed in Krishna consciousness. We should be always conscious of Krishna. So there is a more, so here Krishna is, he's asking to give up all work into Krishna, but later he says that actually you do everything for me only. He says, yat jahosi yat karoshi yat ashnasi yat juhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushu madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So everything should be offered to Krishna. That's how Krishna puts it in the 9th chapter. I believe that's 9.30 if I'm not wrong. And then there is another such verse that comes in the 18th chapter. He says, Yataha pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manava. That Lord from whose everyone has emanated, all living entities have emanated from him, and that Lord pervades everything. Swakarmana tam abhyarchya. Through your work, you worship him. Basically, he's saying that you offer your work to him. And then swakarmanadam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manava. In this way you will attain perfection. So there is actually, if you see, there is another such verse where Prabhupada writes a fantastic purport. And actually Prabhupada, that's a very similar actually that verse. And Prabhupada says that that verse that I'm talking about is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Anyone remembers which verse I'm talking about? Prabhupada calls it as the essence of the Gita.
मन मना
Is it-
मत भक्तो मध्याजी माम नमस्कुरु सतवन प्रभु.
No, Mataji.
Is it sarva dharma paritajya maekam sharanam muja ham tam sarva papebhyo mokshayami masacha?
No, Mataji, that's also not the verse. So
Bhaktyata vananya shakya, is that the one?
no.
It's
you are very-
11:55.
Yeah,
55.
but yeah, 55. That's correct. What is the verse? So
Forgot
Prabhupada says
to-
that this is the sum and substance. Mat karma krin, mat parmo, mat bhakta sangvarjita, nirvaire sarva bhuteshu yaha samameti pandava. So he says, mat karma krin, work for me. And then mat paramo, make me as your supreme goal. There should not be any goal in your life bigger than me. Mat paramo, mat bhakta, become my devotee. And then sangha varjita, give up all worldly association of material minded men. Nirvaire sarva bhuteshu, you become non-envious to all living entities. Don't be envious of anyone. And then yaha samameti pandava, if you act like this, you will surely come to me. So this verse is very similar to that verse actually, and Prabhupada also kinds of hints towards that. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. So these verses, there are some very key verses in the Bhagavad Gita, and this is one of that verse. And of course, Prabhupada writes an elaborate purport for it. So Prabhupada also explains the meaning of each of the words that we just discussed. So as I was mentioning, that Vigatajvaraha, without giving up the feverish mentality of lethargy, that is getting free from the mode of ignorance. Then Nirashir Nirmamo, getting free from the mode of passion. Adhyatma Chetasa, that is cultivating the mode of goodness. And Mai Sarvani Karmani, Sanyasya, offering all your work to me. That is rising towards transcendence. So this verse actually gives the full purport, the full program of Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada explains each of the words very nicely. So the first word that he explains is, he says, the Supreme Lord is the soul of all souls. Therefore, one who depends solely and wholly on the Supreme Soul without personal consideration, or in other words, one who is fully Krishna conscious, is called Adhyatma Chetas. So he defines what is Adhyatma Chetas. Then Nirashi means that one who has to act on the order of the master, but should not expect fruitive results. And then the example that Prabhupada gave is a wonderful example. The cashier may count millions of dollars for his employer, but he does not claim a cent for himself. So this is a very relevant example for us to understand how do we do this nirashi without expecting any profit. So the cashier actually we see in a bank when we are either we deposit money or we withdraw money, there is a cashier that is sitting, or even if we go to a store and we buy something, so there is a cashier over there. So we pay something and he might give us some change back. So he's counting so many notes daily, so many currency notes daily. But he doesn't think that, okay, this is all my money. You know, he knows that this belongs to my employer. So similarly, we should not expect any profit. You know, we should be very clear in our mind that everything belongs to Krishna. And then Prabhupada says, similarly, one has to realize that nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. That is the real purport of Mai or unto me. So Mai Sanyasya Chet. Mai Sanyas, what is it? Mai Sarvani Karmani Sanyasya Adhyatma. And when one acts in such Krishna consciousness, certainly he does not claim proprietorship over anything. This consciousness is called nirmama, giving up all false proprietorship. That's how Prabhupada describes it. Or nothing is mine. And if there is any reluctance to execute such a stern order, which is without consideration of so-called kinsmen in the bodily relationship, that reluctance should be thrown off. In this way, one may become vigata jwara, or without feverish mentality or lethargy. So what was the lethargy that Arjuna had? He was not willing to fight because he is thinking that these are all my kinsmen. They are my guru, my grandsire, my cousins. How can I fight against them? How can I kill them? So Prabhupada explains that, you know, such a feverish mentality should be given up. And then he explains everyone according to his quality and position has a particular type of work to discharge. And all such duties may be discharged in Krishna consciousness as described above. So the nature of Arjuna, his quality and his position is that he is a warrior, he is a Kshatriya. So his particular type of work is to basically fight against the aggressors, fight against the wrongdoers, because he has a responsibility towards the society. So Prabhupada is saying that such duties may be discharged in Krishna, must be discharged in Krishna consciousness. So similarly, we also have certain position, certain work that, you know, that is a particular work, a particular type of position, and all of us should also discharge our duties in that way, in Krishna consciousness. That will lead one to the path of liberation. So this is how liberation can be achieved, you know, by acting in the Krishna consciousness. So I just take a pause and see if there are any questions or comments about what we just discussed so far.
So you said military discipline.
Yeah.
So does
That's
that
very
mean our
striking.
day-to-day activities should be set in?
Right. Actually, what
I was
happens
just
is,
thinking,
yeah, go ahead.
one day, like, oh, I really want to sleep in today.
Yeah, exactly.
military discipline. I was laughing at that.
Yeah.
But it's a good word. that never registered to me ever before when reading the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, when I also read this military discipline, that kinds of strikes
Yeah.
out completely.
Yeah, it's actually
it's very striking.
I'm kind of, you know, honing into that for the first time.
Yeah. Sometimes we think, yesterday I did that. What? Let me just relax today. You know. But Prabhupada.
My life is anything but military discipline. But
Yeah.
and that compared to like 11:55, you were saying, right? That you should, if you
Yeah.
can do that and then get rid of envy, that was a good.
Let
I
me
need to
open
read up
that.
on
Yeah.
that.
Let me write.
Yeah, you should read
what.
that. I really need to study that verse.
Yeah, I'm just opening.
11:55 should be easy to remember.
Yeah, this is, you know, I also, when Prabhupada writes, this is the sum and substance of the Gita. You know, I also, that verse registered with me, that Prabhupada considers this as the essence of the Gita.
But in a way, a devotee's life is like a military discipline. I'm
Definitely.
talking about you know, people who live in the temple. It's
Mm.
like day after day after day, you know, Mangalarti, you know, you know, eating on right to, you know, breakfast at the same time, lunch at the same time, dinner at the same time, going to bed pretty much at the same time, you know. it is like a military discipline.
Let me share my screen. Yeah, here's the verse. Mat karmakrit mat paramo mat bhaktah sangavarjitah nirvaire sarvabhuteshu yah samameti pandava. So he says, mat karmakrit, engaged in doing my work. Mat parma, considering me the supreme. Mat bhakta, engaged in my devotional service. Sangavarjita, freed from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation. Nirvaire, without an enemy. Sarva bhuteshu, among all living entities. Yaha, one who, saha he, mam, unto me. Eti comes Pandava, O son of Pandu. Translation: My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. Purport: anyone who wants to approach the supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet in the spiritual sky and be intimately connected with the Supreme Personality Krishna must take this formula as stated by the Supreme himself. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of the Bhagavad Gita.
Wow.
Bhagavad Gita is a book directed to the conditioned souls who are engaged in the material world with the purpose of lording it over nature and who do not know of the real spiritual life. The Bhagavad Gita is meant to show how one can understand his spiritual existence and his eternal relationship with the Supreme Spiritual Personality and to teach one how to go back home, back to Godhead. So this is very important actually. The purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is to send us back home, back to Godhead. It is not a book meant for, making Arjuna to fight the war. Now here is the verse which clearly explains the process by which one can attain success in his spiritual activity, devotional service. As far as work is concerned, one should transfer his energy entirely to Krishna conscious activities, as stated in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.2.255. Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatharham Upayunjutaha Nirbandhaha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. No work should be done by any man except in relationship to Krishna. This is called Krishna Karma. One may be engaged in various activities, but one should not be attached to the result of his work. The result should be done only for him. For example, one may be engaged in business, but to transform that activity into Krishna consciousness, one has to do business for Krishna. If Krishna is the proprietor of the business, then Krishna should enjoy the profit of the business. If a businessman is in profession of thousands and thousands of dollars, and if he has to offer all this to Krishna, he can do it. This is work for Krishna. Instead of constructing a big building for his sense gratification, he can construct a nice temple for Krishna. And he can install the deity of Krishna and arrange for the deity's service, as is outlined in the authorized books of devotional service. This is all Krishna Karma. One should not be attached to the result of his work, but the result should be offered to Krishna and one should accept as prasadam the remnants of offerings to Krishna. If one constructs a very big building for Krishna and installs the deity of Krishna, one is not prohibited from living there. But it is understood that the proprietor of the building is Krishna. That is called Krishna consciousness. If, however, one is not able to construct a temple for Krishna, one can engage himself in cleansing the temple of Krishna. That is also Krishna Karma. One can cultivate a garden. Anyone who has land in India, at least any poor man has a certain amount of land, can utilize that for Krishna by growing flowers to offer him. One can sow tulsi plants because tulsi leaves are very important, and Krishna has recommended this in Bhagavad Gita. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Krishna desires that one offer him either a leaf or a flower or fruit or a little water, and by such an offering he is satisfied. This leaf especially refers to the tulsi. So one can sow tulsi and pour water on the plant. Thus, even the poorest man can engage in the service of Krishna. These are some of the examples of how one can engage in working for Krishna. The word Mat Paramaha refers to one who considers the association of Krishna in his supreme abode to be the highest perfection of life. Such a person does not wish to be elevated to the higher planets, such as the moon or sun or heavenly planets, or even the highest planet of this universe, Brahmaloka. He has no attraction for that. He is only attracted to being transferred to the spiritual sky, and even in the spiritual sky, he is not satisfied with merging into the glowing Brahma Jyoti refulgence, for he wants to enter the highest spiritual planet, namely Krishna Loka, Golok Vrindavan. He has full knowledge of that planet, and therefore he is not interested in any other. As indicated by the word Mad Bhaktaha, he fully engages in devotional service. specifically in the 9 processes of devotional engagement: hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers, carrying out the orders of the Lord, making friends with him, and surrendering everything to him. One can engage in all 9 devotional processes, or 8 or 7, or at least in one, and that will surely make one perfect. The term Sangha Varjitaha is very significant. One should disassociate himself from persons who are against Krishna. Not only are the atheistic persons against Krishna, but so also are those who are attracted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. Therefore, the pure form of devotional service is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11 as follows: Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. In this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami clearly states that if anyone wants to execute unalloyed devotional service, he must be freed from all kinds of material contamination. He must be freed from the association of persons who are addicted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. When freed from such unwanted association and from the contamination of material desires, one favorably cultivates knowledge of Krishna, that is called pure devotional service. Anukulyasya sankalpaha pratikulyasya varjanam. Hari Bhakti Vilas 11.676. One should think of Krishna and act for Krishna favorably, not unfavorably. Kamsa was an enemy of Krishna's. From the very beginning of Krishna's birth, Kamsa planned in so many ways to kill him. And because he was always unsuccessful, he was always thinking of Krishna. Thus, while working, while eating, while sleeping, he was always Krishna conscious in every respect. But that Krishna consciousness was not favorable. And therefore, in spite of his always thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day, he was considered a demon. And Krishna at last killed him. Of course, anyone who is killed by Krishna attains salvation immediately, but that is not the aim of the pure devotee. The pure devotee does not even want salvation. He does not want to be transferred even to the highest planet, Golok Vrindavan. His only objective is to serve Krishna wherever he may be. Prabhupada is the living embodiment for this. He wants to serve Krishna wherever he was. So he was always working. It's so amazing. After even in his last days, Prabhupada was serving. When he became so weak.
This is a long purport, huh?
Yeah, it's very long. But
it is the essence, he said.
Right.
But it's difficult to find out when you say like which is the best verse, because Ganpati Govind, every verse you say, this is the most important verse. So
Yeah.
when you ask like, which is the
Yeah.
we can think of 10 verses.
Actually, so there are different point of views, So what I mean is there are different contexts in which different verses are important.
But
So,
you were not lying. This verse, Prabhupada actually says it's the essence.
yeah, right. So, and the wonderful thing that I liked about this verse is Prabhupada gives for everyone, how one can become Krishna conscious. So he talks
I know
about
this is a big purport. So
Right.
there's a lot in this that you can,
Yeah. So starting from the rich man, he says he can build a temple for Krishna, but if he's poor, then he can at least do some cleaning in the temple.
or do some gardening and make some flowers.
Yeah. Right. So in that way,
Very
everybody
nice
can
verse,
become Krishna
yeah.
conscious.
Yes,
There is no qualification, and there is no one is qualified or disqualified from Krishna consciousness. Everybody is qualified. There is always a way to serve Krishna, and Krishna is so mercifully always accept service in whatever way you want to offer service.
I know, but this verse complements the other third chapter verse where you have to also have military discipline.
Right. That military discipline is actually very nice. Well, even at least for sadhakas, that's very important. Unless we come to the pure devotee level, unless we are in a military discipline, we'll never be able to come to that high platform. But it's not easy. So.
But then you hear of people saying like, just by chanting Krishna's name sincerely have achieved so much. So how do you relate to that? Like in one sense, it says that you have to have like this great discipline and everything, but then other people who did not do as much still can attain.
Everything has its importance, Mataji. I don't think we can say that just by chanting. So there is some practical service that is needed. Even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said that practical service is very important. And that is what this verse is also hinting at. Mat karma krin, work for me. So, although we say that, okay, in this age, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam eva kevalam, kalau nastev, nastev, nastev. Only chanting the holy names is what is going to take you beyond this world. Nothing else will work in Krishna, in Kali Yuga. Yet we see that Prabhupada insisted, even in the 11th, the third chapter verse that we were reading, Prabhupada was talking about deity worship. Even in this verse, he talks about deity worship, Prabhupada. So then why is he insisting so much on deity worship? Anyone can answer that? Like, why did, if Prabhupada, or, if the whole essence is to chant the holy names, and only by chanting the holy names we can transcend, why do we have so strict regulations for deity worship also? How does that help? Prabhupada also did not, of course, he said that other things are not practical in this age, but he did not ban even fire sacrifice. We see that Prabhupada also performed at times, when, at least for when there were initiations, so there were fire sacrifices that were performed. So he did not completely ban fire sacrifices. So although he knew that they are not the most important thing, yet he did it at times. So why did we, what is the importance of fire sacrifice in that case?
I mean,
So-
I think basically it's engagement, right? Engagement in Krishna's service 24/7. And deity worship, or Vaidhi Bhakti, or what do you call sadhana bhakti, or following the Pancharatrika Vidhis and all that keeps you engaged, right?
Yeah, engagement is one thing. So deity worship, he had three purposes, Prabhupada. He mentions it somewhere. He says one is that cleanliness. So when you have deities, you have to maintain proper cleanliness. Otherwise, it's very difficult to maintain cleanliness. That is one. Second is punctuality. That punctuality will sink in when we have the deities. There is a fixed timetable for the deities, and we have to follow it very strictly.
Well,
And third, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Brahmana's qualities, right? Punctuality and cleanliness. Yeah.
And the third, and which is the most important, is there is a personal relationship that we build with the deity. The deity is the personal manifestation of the Lord. It's not just like a stone that is there. He is the Lord. He is Krishna himself. Although we cannot see Krishna, but because Krishna is so merciful, he manifests as deity. And then with the deity, when we associate with the deity, we are able to develop that personal relationship. So we are chanting the names of the Lord, but we are not able to see him. So to engage all our senses, we are able to, the deity worship is required. For the fire sacrifice, for example, it is important in a way that, so Prabhupada used to, there were some certain cases where some of his disciples had some difficulties in following the regulative principles. Prabhupada used to chastise them. He said, what kind of a person you are? You promised me in front of Agni, in front of fire, and now you are going back on your words. What kind of a person you are? So what happens is that fire, it brings some gravity. It becomes more formal. And it gives you that seriousness. Okay, I'm doing. So it is a ritual, but that ritual kinds of reminds us that no, I have to follow it seriously. So similarly, recitation of Sanskrit verses. Prabhupada also started that. So what happens is, by reciting, so although it's not the most important, we think that we say, and even in Bhagavatam it is mentioned that grammar and all this is unimportant. What matters is our bhakti. So then why did Prabhupada introduce chanting of the Sanskrit verses? That is because it brings in auspiciousness, and also he noticed that what I also heard from one of the senior devotees, that that his when Prabhupada used to give lectures, at times he used to see that in the hall, some people, they were not very serious, and they were not very listening very carefully. So for them, to catch their attention, because for them Sanskrit is a very difficult language, it's not their own language, so they have to invest themselves in, first of all, hearing it and then reciting it. So that investing of consciousness also comes through recitation of the Sanskrit verses. And now we see that in every single temple we have this recitation that happens. So everything has its own importance. We can't say that only with one thing we can, because it's like a package that is given to us. So we have to actually, so it is to help us in a way. Of course, Prabhupada is a Mahabhagavat, he's a Paramhansa. He can only, he has already transcended. So just chanting is good enough for Mahabhagavats, for Paramhansas. But for people like us, everything is given to us. And at least in some way, whatever way we can get connected and we can uplift ourselves. So Prabhupada has given us so many things by which we can get connected. So sometimes people say that this activity is very difficult for me. So we have to find at least that one activity in Krishna consciousness. Either it could be hearing, or it could be kirtans, doing kirtans. Some people are very good at it. Some people like to do cooking for Krishna. So there has to be one activity that we would like to do for Krishna. And that's what Prabhupada writes in this purport, that out of these 9 processes, you can do 8 or 7 or at least one. So if we find joy in that one activity, that one activity can actually connect us to Krishna. So that is important. So what is that one activity that is different for everyone? Some people, as I was saying, that some people like to do kirtan. No, I'm not saying I don't like it, but I may not be so much into kirtans. So, but there are other activities that I can do then. So in that sense. Should I read this complete purport?
Yeah, it's might as well. Looks like.
Okay, let me finish this. Two paragraphs. A devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. Therefore, it is said that therefore it is said here that he has no enemy. Nirvaire. How is this? A devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. He has personal experience of this, and therefore he wants to introduce this system, Krishna consciousness, into human society. There are many examples in history of devotees of the Lord who risked their lives for the spreading of God consciousness. The favorite example is Lord Jesus Christ. He was crucified by the non-devotees, but he sacrificed his life for spreading God consciousness. I show this line to when I go for book distribution, right? Prabhupada glorifies Jesus Christ. This is the only place where Prabhupada talks about Jesus Christ in the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, in the Bhagavatam, at least there are 11 to 12 references to Jesus Christ.
Oh, wow.
So this comes in very handy and people get excited. Many people have bought Bhagavad Gita once I show this. Of course, it would be superficial to understand that he was killed. Similarly, in India also, there are many examples such as Thakur Haridas and Prahlad Maharaj. Why such risk? Because they wanted to spread Krishna consciousness, and it is difficult. A Krishna conscious person knows that if a man is suffering, it is due to his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. Therefore, the highest benefit one can render to human society is relieving one's neighbor from all material problems. In such a way, a pure devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord. Now we can imagine how merciful Krishna is to those engaged in his service, risking everything for him. Therefore, it is certain that such persons must reach the supreme planet after leaving the body. So this is very striking that Prabhupada said that if you are a friend to all living entities, then you should consider how you can connect them to Krishna. That is the real friend actually. I have Krishna, let me give Krishna to my friend also. In summary, the universal form of Krishna, which is a temporary manifestation, and the form of time which devours everything, and even the form of Vishnu, four-handed, have all been exhibited by Krishna. Thus, Krishna is the origin of all these manifestations. It is not that Krishna is a manifestation of the original Vishnu Rupa or Vishnu. Krishna is the origin of all forms. There are hundreds and thousands of Vishnus, but for a devotee, no form of Krishna is important, but the original form, two-handed, Shyama Sundara. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that those who are attached to the Shyama Sundara form of Krishna in love and devotion can see him always within the heart and cannot see anything else. One should understand, therefore, that the purport of this 11th chapter is that the form of Krishna is essential and supreme.
Very nice. Thank you.
So coming back to 3.30, I'll read the translation one more time. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Any other questions or comments about this verse, or any corrections about what I said? Okay, we have some time. Let's try to do the next verse. So short purport. I just recite the verse. You can recite it once, you can repeat after me, and then I read the translation and the purport. Ye me madam idam nityam
ये मे मतमिदं नित्यम्
Nityam
anutishtanti manavaha
Anutishtanti Manavaha
shraddhavanto anusayanto
Shraddhavanto
अनुष्ठितो
Anushyanto
muchyante tepi karmabhi.
Uchyantepi Karmabhi.
Translation: those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. Purport: the injunction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the essence of all Vedic wisdom and therefore is eternally true without exception. As the Vedas are eternal, so this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. One should have firm faith in this injunction without envying the Lord. There are many philosophers who write comments on the Bhagavad Gita but have no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from the bondage of fruitive action. But an ordinary man with firm faith in the eternal injunctions of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the bondage of the law of karma. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord, but because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. Again, very nice purport given by Prabhupada. I read the translation one more time. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. So Krishna here is giving the result of acting in the way. So he described that in 3.30, this is how you should act. And then if you act in that way, what would be the consequence? So Bible is a book of commandments. Bhagavad Gita is a book of choices and consequences. So Krishna gives different options that, this is how you should act. If you don't act like this, then this will happen. If you act like this, then this will happen. Now you decide. So after speaking the full Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, Yathech.
You froze, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, you're
And
frozen.
what would be the consequences of following those choices?
You froze for a little while.
Roji, you
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having some problems with my internet connection today, it seems. Am I sounding okay now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you hear what I was saying about that Bible is a book of commandments, Bhagavad Gita
Yeah,
is a
that
book
we
of
heard in
choices
this
and
choices and
consequences.
consequences. And at the end, he gives Arjuna a choice, right?
Yeah,
So that's what he was.
Tathakuru. You decide what you want to do.
Yeah.
So again, and so here he is telling Arjuna that if you follow this instruction, this is what will happen. And the next verse, Krishna will tell that if you don't follow this, then what is going to happen? So both the consequences Krishna will tell to Arjuna, and then he will leave it in Arjuna what to do. So here, one of the most important thing that I wanted to mention about this purport is Prabhupada writes that faith is most important.
But I have a question here, though.
Yes.
So it says without envy. So is it envy of Krishna or envy of, fellow men? What does envy mean here?
Yeah. So envy means envy from anyone, actually. Ultimately, see, if we envy anyone, so everybody is a part and parcel of Krishna. So indirectly or directly, we are envying Krishna only. So what it means is that we should not have any envy for anyone, actually. In the previous verse also, Krishna had mentioned. So Nirvaire Sarva Bhuteshu is how Krishna had described in 11.55, if you remember. So be non-envious from all living entities. Nirvaire. And Prabhupada says that be a friend of all living entities. So a friend is obviously non-envious. So this envy is to anyone. So we have to be free from envy. Envy is a defect, so we should not envy anyone. Ultimately, we envy Krishna. That's why we envy others. So that envy is a negative thing that we have to give up.
So it really relates to Krishna even when we envy fellow man. You're saying.
Exactly, yeah. Mamayu amsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Everybody is my part and parcel. So if we are envying anyone, we are indirectly envying Krishna only. So Prabhupada says there are many philosophers who write comments on the Bhagavad Gita but have no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from the bondage of fruitive action. So they write commentaries, but they don't actually believe in Krishna so much. They just, it is, I actually have read such commentaries. I mean, not fully, but they don't consider Krishna as a very, they say, okay, Krishna is just an enlightened person and nothing great about him. So there is this, Osho has written a commentary on the Gita. I don't want to talk about it now, but anyway, so they will never be liberated, but an ordinary man with firm faith in eternal injunctions of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the bondage of the law of karma. So the most important thing Prabhupada says is, even if we are not able to follow the instructions fully for whatever difficulties we may have, and Krishna is going to talk about the 12th chapter, he will give the full ladder. And okay, if you cannot do this, if you cannot fully fix your mind and intelligence upon me, then you follow the regulations of Bhakti Yoga. If you cannot do this, then at least work for me. If you cannot work for me, then at least give up some part of your results to me. So he will give the full ladder over there. So the point is, and then in 9.3, Krishna also says, Bhagavad Gita, in Ashraddha Danaha Purusha Dharmasya Yasya Parantapa Aprapya Mam Nivartante Mrityu Samsar Vartamani. Those who are not faithful, those who do not have faith in me, they can never attain me, no matter what they do. And if they don't attain me, whatever they attain, that will be temporary. Ashraddha Danaha Purusha Dharmasya Yasya Parantapa Aprapya Mam. Aprapya means those who don't attain me. Nivartante, they will come back. So come back to this word of birth and death. Mrityu samsar vartamani. So Mrityu samsar is this word of death. So they will keep coming back. Even if they attain Brahman, if they don't have faith in Krishna, then they will ultimately fall down. So ultimately, the only thing that is desirable, the only ultimate destination, the only permanent destination is Krishna. So if we don't attain Krishna, whatever we attain, it is not going to work. It is not a lasting solution actually. So this faith is a very important thing, having faith in Krishna. So the one thing is having faith in Krishna. And when we have faith in Krishna, we should follow the instructions given by Krishna. But even if we are, so some people, they think that, okay, this is too lofty, this is impractical. I can't do this. And if because I is too lofty, too impractical, actually there is no use of this Bhagavad Gita. And I don't know even if Krishna exists or not. Is he a mythological personality or is a real personality? I don't want to think about all this, So if that faith is not there, then there is no hope. And then the devotee always have faith. And because he has faith, he never gives up hope. The devotee always have hope. He's Asha Baddha. So Asha Baddha means he is bound to hope that, okay, I am a fallen person, with my efforts, I cannot do anything, but I have faith in Krishna. I have hope on Krishna that Krishna will pick me up. He will take me out of this material world. Krishna also says in the 12th chapter, 8th verse, Tesham aham samudharta mrityu samsara sagarat. I personally come and deliver them from this mrityu samsara sagarat. Mrityu samsara, and this word is like an ocean of death. So I pick them up from here and I take them back with me. So it's 8. I just stop here and see if there are any last comments or corrections or any questions. All right. If there are no other questions or comments, we can stop here.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, go ahead, Chetan.
You were talking about the ocean of death, and I know that there's also an ocean of misery. So is the ocean of death and the ocean of misery the same thing?
Yeah, ultimately the miseries in the material world are birth, death, old age, and disease. So this world is considered to be Mrityu samsar is so actually everything in the material world is mrityu samsar. You know, Krishna says in the 8th chapter that from the topmost planet Brahmaloka to the lowest planet in this world, death takes place. That's what he says in the 8th chapter. But especially the planet Earth, you know, what happens is the death is very quick. We only have few years. In Kali Yuga, it is even shorter, maybe less than 80 years or less than 70 years, sometimes at least less than 100 years in most cases. So death is relatively very quick. But in the higher planets, you know, they still have a little longer lifespan. So the mystery is, the real mystery of the life is birth, death, old age, and disease. You know, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. That's how Krishna puts it in 13.11th verse of Bhagavad Gita. So those are the real mysteries, and death is one of those mysteries. Yep. So twice Krishna says Anityam Asukham Lokam. That's how he puts it in the 9th chapter. In the 8th chapter, he says, what is it?
Dukhalayam
Dukhalayam
Ashashvatam.
Ashashvatam. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, Dukhalayam Ashashvatam and Antyam Asukham. Both are the same thing.
They're both my
Dukhalayam
companions, so I remember them.
Yeah. Chaitanya, does it answer
Yeah,
your
thank
question?
you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Let's offer our obeisances to the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha. Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo Namah. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रीमद् भगवत गीता की
His
जय,
Grace Ganpati Govind Prabhu.
श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Hare Krishna. Very nice lecture, sir.
Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for your nice lesson.
Thank you, Mataji.